one thing Gottlieb keeps crowing over is they don't, Team Baldoni and, Bryan has no recourse. If it goes her way, there is no appeal process for this.
Let's really understand what happened there. That was a decision by the parties to make sure that there was not going to be an appeal. And really, honestly, from our standpoint, enough, right? Just enough. She's the one that filed the lawsuit originally. She's the one that started the battle. She's the one that started to take over the film and everything that came along with that. And honestly, we want to do nothing but wish her well and to have a good life and to move on. But finality is the important part there. So in terms of not having an appeal, it wasn't like that's their idea. They were the only ones to come up with it, and they were the only ones that wanted it, and we didn't want it. It what we wanted was finality. We want people to be able to move on, talk about other things, find other interesting things that they can work on.
Yeah. Okay. So he's making it sound like there's a trap on that, but everybody wants finality. Everybody wants. There's just. Tell me what you think is going to happen here, because again, this has never really been tested. This statute 47.1. The case, Justin's countersuit, was never actually heard. It was never tried. It was thrown out. You guys, and please reiterate the reason why you did not try and keep that going. Was that just to serve the purpose of showing his outrage and showing, that emotionally that he was upset and that he's an innocent person?
Well, the cross complaint wasn't thrown out completely. That there were causes of that. There were claims that we were allowed to amend and could have amended. The idea at that time was to appeal those claims because as you can tell, with all the discovery was coming out, this was before the discovery in the case even happened, right? That it was dismissed. But as the discovery came out, you started to see things in that, in that cross complaint were actually true, right? Things in that cross complaint were actually backed up by documents that were produced in discovery. And that wasn't necessarily the ground it was thrown out. It was, parts of it were thrown out based on procedural reasons, based on litigation privilege type reasons, fair reporting type reasons, other things like that. But again, I'd argue that sometimes when you're attacked without notice and it's unfair and you don't have the right to speak, which is kind of what this statute says. You're not allowed to say someone who is lying about what they're saying. It is really, your voice needs to get out and in some way, and the truth needs to get out in some way. And that's why the strategy of taking every document, every text message, everything, and putting it out there for the public to decide was really your trial.
The law isn't the first place you look when it comes to nuance, but in this situation, you've got to. There's nuance must prevail because, if you strictly interpret the law, that may help them in some way. However, having the SH claims thrown out and have everything thrown. I think the judge, I don't think Lewis Lyman is a fool. I don't think any other judge is going to be a fool. And it's clear to see, really, this never had the veracity that, it's so obvious to me. I don't understand how anyone could see it her way. I don't think anyone does. But if it's strictly interpreted, maybe there's a little something and she can walk away and crow. And even then, I think that's up in question because it was never a tried and lost.
I think, if this case has shown us one thing, right, it's that whatever the result is, and no matter how badly it is against the other side, that they will create a scenario where, where a loss somehow becomes a win. I mean, I think that's what you're seeing. But again, right, this is like a factual, very clear thing. Lawsuit for $300 million, claim damages of $150 million, a dropping of the emotional distress, and the settlement, which is public now, shows that there was actually not a dollar paid whatsoever. The only thing that was left was this motion, this motion that was filed back in September. And the motion, they had the right to bring anyway. So what was Baldoni giving up?
Right.
As part of the settlement? Not a dollar, right? Just whatever existed. So it's impossible to look at that and say that's not an incredible opportunity to resolve something. And the idea of getting rid of the appellate rights is enough. Let's let people move on.
Yeah,
let's let
everybody
Judge Lyman deal with what's a very important an important dockets that he has, important cases that he has. Let's let people move on, because what we've seen is the facts were not as they were represented in the New York Times, and the facts were not as they were represented in the lawsuit that she filed.
And Katie Cool lady here on the bottom, a commenter, she says, do you think Blake will now put out her mountains of evidence? She could always do her own website that you put out. I mean, now there's no NDA, there's no non-disparagement clause. Everybody can say what they want to say. And so, Blake, I look forward to the great big reveal of, don't let that go. You paid so many millions of dollars to the Wilkie law firm and Gottlieb and these guys. Have them put it out in a nice, in fact, let it actually be tried in the court of public opinion. Feel free to dump, do an info dump if you can. Bryan, what I'm interested in is, did you ever sit across, like in deposition, did you ever have a word with Blake Lively, just like hey, how are you? It's kind of hot today in New York. Well, any small talk or anything?
I definitely said hello, and definitely conducted the deposition and took her deposition. And there wasn't a lot of communication in between that, because as lawyers, you're not supposed to talk to somebody on the other side, a party on the other side, who's represented by counsel. So there wasn't, a lot of chitter chatter. And I'm not sure she was particularly interested in that. But it was a
not great
deposition. And as you can tell, if you read the deposition, you'll find about somewhere between 6 and 9 different things that are directly, absolutely 100% contrary to what she put in writing.
As for her lawyer, he doesn't seem to like you very much, Mike Gottlieb. Is that just a professional? Have you ever sat with him before and talked about something other than this?
I actually like him, and I'm not in the business of getting people to like me.
When it's all done, you're going to send him flowers or something, because I don't think he likes you.
Well, you know what? I think it's a long, let's hope it's a long relationship. And again, I respect all of the lawyers on the other side. I don't agree with what they did. I don't agree with the Van Zam part of it. I think that the client hopefully should have been advised that if she wants to improve her reputation, that filing a lawsuit like this and handling it like this is the worst thing you can do, not the best thing you can do. And it's unfortunate that they, chose that route. You wonder why that decision was made, but putting it aside, there's no animosity against her or Ryan Reynolds or against the lawyers.
You'll be done with this, yeah.
They live and be well.
Well, yeah. Is there a Kool-Aid? Is it like a drinking the Kool-Aid thing that happens, or like needs to happen when you're representing someone? Like Gottlieb's a smart guy, and I think if he were on the outside of this, he would see like, oh, this woman is crazy. He would know that all the, a lot of heavy hitters and producers in this town know how difficult she is and how mercurial Ryan is. The reputations are very, very well known. He's not totally oblivious to that. But do you have to kind of like, as a lawyer, separate yourself from this case? Just basic. Do you have to like drink the Kool-Aid a little bit with your client to like help yourself be a really good, steward and defendant of that person, because it must be very difficult when you're like, I gotta go. I'm gonna pretend to believe her.
Yeah, no, you don't want to drink the Kool-Aid. As a matter of fact, that would not be actually complying with your obligations as a lawyer. You want to provide honest advice as to the risks of every case and what could and might happen. And if anybody looked at the text messages before that said, "Come in my trailer, I'm pumping," that were contrary to what was in writing, they would have advised differently. And I don't know what the advice was. I'm not entitled to know that, but I certainly hope that the advice was provided that this was not a reputational tool which was going to help your likability.
Yeah. I've put out I emailed Mike this morning, and I asked him to come on Hot Mics. He's not responded, but I hope he does, and I look forward to getting to know him and hearing from him.
Look, it's been a tough year for him, right? He started out with Drake and that kind of disaster of making the decision to go after Kendrick Lamar or Universal, and again, like, I mean, in my opinion, Drake was the bigger artist. Drake's, as record sales, like, why wouldn't you thank Kendrick Lamar for mentioning your name, right? Like, isn't there another approach reputationally where you can take this and say, you know what, like, taking the high road sometimes is taking your reputation back and being better than pointing out the fact that you're hurt and wronged and making and adding more adding more eyeballs, insights, and frankly people that get annoyed by the justice system being used for purposes that don't necessarily help people, and frankly lot of real survivors out there, and a lot of really people that are hurting that need the court system. And hopefully we can all do pro bono work and help others and really like change kind of the bitter taste that went on in this case. But I have nothing but the highest respect for Mike Gottlieb and the lawyers.
Oh, I can tell. Yeah. He hits him. He starts with Drake. It ends with Blake. He hits him with the Drake fastball. I have nothing but collegial respect for my opposition.
I joked at a certain point, I had heard that he said he hadn't been invited to pickleball. So maybe at your house, Billy, we
settle
a
this
thing that settles this case once and for all. Singles, Gottlieb and me, and we'll do it at your house, and love to do it.
I will broadcast it Gottlieb v. Freedman in a classic narrated and broadcast right on Hot Mics live. I will do the play-by-play. I will and call the lines, because I don't want any lawyer caught in it's bad for the reputation if you're calling an in-ball out.
But that's going to be the problem, right? The line calls, by tough lawyers, or it could go either way.
Out.
But
No, Bryan, that was in.
I'm going to try to negotiate the Freedman versus Gottlieb rather than the Gottlieb versus Freedman.
Well, now, let's get Lively versus Baldoni over and get on with Gottlieb versus Freedman on my pickleball court in the backyard broadcast. Could be at night. I've got new lights in there, and we'll invite the gallery, and I bet we could sell tickets to this. We'll give it to charity. It'll be fantastic.
I just think that really this goes back, honestly, to the domestic violence survivors. I think that's where Justin's head is at. I think that's where it should be. That's what this movie was about. It should be the purpose of this. I'm hoping we can move on starting today.
Well, now we know our charity.
Yeah. I'm hoping
at least one of you will be able to give the money where it was supposed to go in the first place. Bryan, I know you have a busy day. I thank you so much, sir.
Thank you. You do a great job, Billy. I really appreciate you.
I'm curious. I'm inquisitive. I'm interested. And you're always informative. Thank you, sir. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. Appreciate your time.
I really do want to do Gottlieb v. Freedman in pickleball. I just think that would be, I honestly think that would be an amazing event. Bryan dresses like he loves his basketball shirt. He looks like a grown up, like a big teenager on the and he is a massive shit talker on the pickleball court. It's brutal.
You just showed some of that right there. The Gottlieb stuff was killing me.
Oh, it's total sideshow. You're not just, it reminds me of, what's his name? Peterman, and Dancing with the Stars. He always had so much else going on besides the actual dancing. If Bryan only relied on his pickleball, it wouldn't, he'd be destroyed.